It's a pleasure to be speaking here at the Ross School of Business, from which I'm actually an alum of the Tauber Institute on the engineering side of things. I'm here today to talk to you about the MORE program. My good friend and the president of the board said that during a presentation you should do your best never to apologize, but I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention that when we put together a couple of these slides, it was originally done on a Mac operating system. We then converted them to PowerPoint 2010, back to PowerPoint 2007, and so for those who are either graphic designers or put off by just very ugly things, I kind of apologize for the slides. The MORE program is, like many good organizations, a result of a little bit of frustration and a lot of bit of accident. I'm going to tell you a bit about our history, sort of where we are, how we got to where we are, specifically what we're working on right now and some of the big things that we have going on in the horizon in the next 6 months to a year or so. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We're funded by Michigan's New Economy Initiative. For those of you who aren't familiar with the NEI is a consortium of 10 local and national philanthropic foundations, which have committed $100 million over the course of 8 years to investing in innovative ways to grow and accelerate Michigan's economy and really to increase the employment for those across the state. It's a fantastic organization, and it's actually based in Detroit, in downtown Detroit. Our offices are in the Guardian building, a building to which I'm ashamed to say that as a lifelong Michigan resident, I was unaware existed until I actually interviewed for the job. It is a fantastic building. I highly recommend checking it out. So about the history, the president and the vice president of our board, Brian Balasia and Joe Kletcha, founded an engineering process improvement firm 10 years ago when they were students at the University of Michigan. And they did this in Southeast Michigan, and they were a tech firm, and they had some early successes and a little bit of luck, and as a result of that, they were placed on a lot of advisory boards and a lot of leadership boards sort of across the state. So a lot of local chambers of commerce, bureaus of tourism and industry, and so they were sort of the young entrepreneurs in the room who could give their point of view when asked, not that they were often asked, but they were just there to sort of represent the young entrepreneurs throughout the community. And as I sat in these meetings, they became frustrated through the years because a lot of the talk, because people saw what was going on in the economy in the southeastern Michigan area and across Michigan, they talked a lot about entrepreneurship and how do we really grow innovation throughout the state. What is it that we need to do to promote entrepreneurship and innovation in the state of Michigan, which is a very reasonable question, but a lot of their focus really focused on two key areas. One of those key areas was how do we create entrepreneurs, as if they're somehow genetically bred individuals who are willing to take just insane risks and mortgage their homes and their babies and live through a car the rest of their life. And there are certainly some of those types of entrepreneurs. The other focus of their talks in these meetings was really focused on venture capital and angel investment. And what do we need to do to bring venture capital and angel investment into Michigan? And while it's impossible to argue that venture capital and angel investment aren't critical to those who are positioned for that type of funding source, a huge percentage of businesses that are looking to get off the ground are either not eligible for venture capital because they're just not in the right space, and for many of those that are eligible, they're not even considered because their business plan isn't put together effectively, they're not linked into the right communities. And so there was this focus on how do we sort of grow and breed entrepreneurs, and how do we get so much venture capital and angel investing into the state that we can actually spur some change. And that didn't really sit well with them because as entrepreneurs themselves and looking around these boards that they were sitting on, most of the successful people that were in these rooms who were entrepreneurs themselves or executives of very, very large firms, most of these firms in their very early stages did not receive venture capital or angel investing. A lot of them bootstrap their ways to success. They sort of sell an idea, they build that idea, they sell it to the person who kind of bought into the idea in the first place, and you grow in a very natural, organic way that way. Also, a lot of entrepreneurs aren't crazy people who are willing to take insane risks. Really what they're trying to do is reduce their level of risk as much as possible so that they're comfortable entering into the marketplace. So what is it that I can do with my idea to reduce the amount of risk that I'm facing so that I can be viable and have a very successful career trying to sell my product or my service to the community? So as a result of these frustrations, they got together for one weekend, they wrote a 38-page paper, and they submitted it. They submitted it to all of the the people that they had met on these boards that they sat on. So all their friends and CEOs throughout the community, they were passing it out and saying, here's what we would do to change the University of Michigan and the entrepreneurial spirit in the University of Michigan in less than 6 months with less than $20,000. So they wrote it with little handwritten notes saying, what do you think about it? Are we sort of on the right path? These are just our ideas. We've been sitting here. I think we should give you some feedback. So what happened during that time is a large regional chamber was actually up for a $5 million Department of Labor wired grant. So they took this paper, they sort of tore off the cover, they stapled it to another idea that they had floating around, they submitted it to the Department of Labor, and they actually received a $5 million wired grant from the Department of Labor. As a thank you, this regional chamber then contributed to Digerati, the for-profit, $450,000 and said, you know, you're a big part of this, here's some money, figure out what to do with it, which is sort of a weird position for a for-profit firm to be in. So what they did is they came up with the acronym MORE, which stands for Matching Opportunities and Resources for Entrepreneurs, which I think we can all agree is a thoroughly adequate acronym. It's okay. And they put this, and they registered for 501c3 status with the federal government and became a nonprofit. So what they did at the very early work is they were gifting entrepreneurial programming, in particular, back to the University of Michigan. So they were trying to figure out ways to both connect students who were looking to start businesses to the broader support community of Michigan, as well as connect small businesses to the University of Michigan, which has historically been a very difficult thing to do, because University of Michigan is a gigantic institution that can be fairly difficult to manage. And so they were sitting down with entrepreneurs on both sides and really sitting down and talking to them and trying to figure out what is it that you need to move your business forward specifically. After these conversations, then they would say, oh, there's this educational video at the Detroit Regional Chamber, or there's this fantastic piece of lab equipment at the University of Michigan that will help you to really solve what your problem is. So because of some successes just gifting this programming to the University of Michigan, leadership from other colleges throughout the state started to come to them and start to sort of ask us, what is it that we need to do to bring the MORE program to our institution? Which is a fair question, except for that the MORE program and what it did at that point in time was literally only spend money, which is not a very great business model in terms of sustainability. They received some free money, they spent it, and everybody was kind of happy with that. And these discussions sort of grew, and Dave Egner from the New Economy Initiative approached the leadership of the MORE program and said, we think this is a really good idea, and we like a lot of the outcomes of this idea. What do we need to do to scale this across the state? So we sort of thought about for a long time what it was that we were doing, and what we were doing actually very closely resembled some of the technology work on the Digerati side, which was how do we efficiently and effectively diagnose what's wrong with somebody in the medical field and efficiently and effectively prescribe a treatment to that field, or to that ill, whatever that ill may be. And so the big sort of ta-da moment that we realized is that when you look across the state of Michigan as a collection of resources, there are about 1,500 business support organizations in the state of Michigan that offer resources for entrepreneurial support, with the average organization representing about 6.5 resources in the way that we define a resource. So what we've been doing over the past year or so is actually inventorying and building out a system to efficiently and effectively inventory these tens of thousands of resources in the state of Michigan. And by resource, I mean a piece of lab equipment, a coach, a grant, an incubator space, tens of thousands of these things across the state. Because there are so many, people are having trouble connecting into these resources. So what we were then doing is we had retooled some of this differential diagnosis technology that previously existed to try to figure out through a fairly finite set of questions, what is it that's wrong with your business? What is it that's really sort of burning at you today and that's preventing you from getting to the next level? So we can sort of quickly figure out what's wrong with you. We have the solution set of resources to help you fix what's wrong with you. So the third part of the work is the matching of, okay, we know what's wrong with you. We know what's available to fix you. How do I match the best resource to move your business idea forward to you? So we're working on developing a system called Insight to link these different pieces together. The most important part of our work, we think, is that we didn't want to create another resource that you needed a resource to find. How do we put this everywhere throughout the state so that everybody can benefit from it, whether they're from inner city Detroit or they are from Norway, Michigan, which is a place that exists. And so what we've been doing over the course of the past year or so is partnering with organizations from across the state, be they municipalities, counties, EDAs, DDAs, the University of Michigan, MSU, Wayne State, the community colleges, the Michigan Colleges Foundation, so that everybody uses the same system, which has the same database, the same algorithms, and the same pool of resources, so that anywhere an entrepreneur may turn for help, they have access to the system and the same pool of resources to help them to move their business idea forward. At the same time, the system is maintaining the branding of that organization. so that if you go to U of M looking for help, and U of M connects you to a resource at the MEDC, you have the resource that it is that you're looking for, but the place that you turn for help is the place that appears to have helped you, which is really valuable when you're trying to build a true coalition to move forward entrepreneurship throughout the state. I have a brief video, which I'm not going to show because I think I'm out of time, but something very, very exciting for us is while we've been building this local coalition, and it's been fantastic, we've actually partnered with the U.S. Department of Commerce. So Secretary Gary Locke was in town a few months ago to announce a partnership with the program so that we could disseminate the Department of Commerce's resources throughout the state of Michigan and broader. The U.S. Small Business Administration has partnered, and we're having meetings with other governmental organizations. So what we're trying to do is really develop one system distributed throughout the state where anybody who's looking for business support assistance can turn and effectively get the answer that they're looking for. That's it.